Volume 10. You remember the song Pistol Grip Pump? Pistol grip pump on my lap at all times. Pistol grip pump on my lap at all times. Fools be jacking other fools, but they'll be jacking mine. This song was huge back in the 90s. It still gets major radio play to this day on classic hip-hop channels all over the country. But who is Volume 10, the artist behind this song? I did an interview with Volume 10 to discuss everything from his beef with the Baka Boyz, a legendary Los Angeles radio duo, to his belief that Ice Cube possibly at one point stole his style. So kick up your feet. Make sure your pistol grip pump is right on the lap at all times. And let's talk with Volume 10. In this first clip, Volume 10 discusses Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5 being one of his early influences.
He was a heavy influence on me.
Okay.
He was definitely an influence on the lyrical side of it all. I think, mainly the guys that we were around at that time were what I would call acrobatic type rappers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It was about the the patterns and being able to do things as with the form that other people couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
But with Charles, he was the first real deep rapper. You know what I mean? He's a thinker. You know what I mean? And that definitely rubbed off on me. You know what I mean? And I would like to say that I have styles, and I definitely like the acrobats of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I like to do things in between the bars that other people haven't done.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely want to give props to Tuna for making it a conscious thing for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't even know if he knows that, but there you go.
Dino Hawkins, better known by his stage name Volume 10, is a rapper from Los Angeles, California. He was a member of the Heavyweights crew along with Freestyle Fellowship, Ganja K, and Medusa, amongst others. Volume 10 was featured on Freestyle Fellowship's 1993 album, Inner City Grits. Volume 10's debut single, Pistol Grip Pump, was released in 1993 to critical acclaim, despite being edited for radio, and was eventually referred to simply as Pump in 1994. The single was later recorded by Rage Against the Machine for their album Renegades. He released his first album, Hip Hopera, in 1994. The second album, Psycho, was released in 2000. And unfortunately, aside from a few songs here and there, Volume 10 has been relatively quiet on the music scene. But no one can doubt that Pistol Grip Pump is a classic. In this next clip from my interview with Volume 10, we discuss Micah 9 from Freestyle Fellowship.
Well, the first thing I want to say is Microphone Mike, man. Micah 9, who, you talk about acrobatics, or I talk about, if we're talking about acrobatics, he has definitely done things that I didn't think was possible to do. I've heard him rap, and it sounded as if he was actually using more than one track, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I when you say Freestyle Fellowships, I mean, they're all brilliant MCs, man. I give you that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Micah 9.
Microphone, Micah 9. It's definitely a standout. And, you know, props to the whole group. But, yeah, that cat right there is on another level that we all aspire to be on. You know, I have to give him his, you know, one of the
Most underrated.
style. Well,
Anywhere from other than the West Coast. I mean, go ahead though.
Nah, man, not even that, because they all know.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows. We all know who Microphone Mike is.
Yeah.
And I would say, you know, hey, they know who Volume 10 is too.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when you say, you know, underrated, I feel what you're really saying is underpaid.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
Uh-huh.
I feel the man is underpaid.
Since hip hop's inception, the West Coast has always gotten less love than the East Coast. I don't know if that's due to the fact that hip hop technically started on the East Coast, or if they're just hating on us because we're better. Just my opinion. But seriously, a lot of West Coast artists to this day are not shown their proper love. Why is that? Here is Volume 10 discussing this very topic.
Our East Coast counterparts are all millionaires, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to complain about that because it's one of the stupidest things that I've ever seen in my life. You know, how, you know, the underground of LA has a handful of MCs who could be considered in the top, you know, 50, 30 MCs.
Oh, yeah.
Saphir, man.
Oh, my God.
You know what I'm saying?
Razzcast. I mean, we can list them all.
Right. None of us are rich from this shit, man. I don't understand why we're not paid. It's something spiritual to the fucking West Coast or something, where they have just decided to lock us out of the fucking money for the most part, man. And I just think it's a shame. It's a shame to the hip hop community because they know. You know, when I listen to my radio, I tell you that the dudes on the radio right now, they know who I am. They listen to my shit. They study Volume 10, but I'm not working. How are we not reaping the benefits of Hollywood? All I can say is that the West Coast artist is treated differently than any other artist on the fucking planet. And you know, it could be a deeper, I think it's a real deep reason. It's deeper than I can really wrap my brain around. And if I could, I probably would be in a better position than I am.
Before we continue, I'm going to ask you to hit that like button if you haven't already. And if this is your first time joining the channel, and you like what you hear, I don't know, something about it just does something to you, pause, then hit that subscribe button. And please, if you're feeling a little generous, there is a little $sign right there below the chat. Feel free to shoot your boy a few bucks to help out the channel. I truly do appreciate it. But let's continue with my interview with Volume 10. Hip-hop radio in the 90s was phenomenal. We had so many influential radio personalities here in Los Angeles who were breaking records left and right. One of my favorite radio duos was the Baka Boyz. The Baka Boyz got their start in Bakersfield, California. Through hard work and talent, they eventually made their ways to Los Angeles. And anyone growing up in the 90s who was a fan of hip-hop was tuned into the Baka Boyz. The Baka Boyz were also music producers. They worked on and produced several hits, including Pistol Grip Pump. Unfortunately, when Volume 10 and the Baka Boyz worked together, it wasn't a match made in hip-hop heaven. They bumped heads a lot, which eventually led to Volume 10 apparently kicking them out of the studio. Here is Volume 10 discussing working with the world-famous Baka Boyz for his hit song, Pistol Grip Pump.
Listen, I want to apologize to the Baka Boyz. It's one of the blunders of my career, and I've had many of blunders to get to, to have to go back to the beginning, and they were definitely a blunder. And I want to give shouts out to them for coming up with that track, man. I mean, they basically helped, stamp my career at that moment. You know what I mean, and put me in a position to make it happen. And I appreciate them. I wish we had worked together throughout these years, but we didn't. And a lot of it has to do with me being immature, I guess, on the kind of ways that how I handle things then. And, what's unfortunate is that people don't seem to want to give me the benefit of the doubt now. I talk to people and they expect me to be the same 19-year-old kid who had a record deal. And it's like, bro, nah, I've learned some things. And, we bumped heads.
I would have loved to be a fly on the wall in that studio. Thankfully, they finished the song and the world was able to hear this classic. Before we continue, I'm going to ask you once again to hit that like button if you haven't already. And if this is your first time joining the channel and you enjoy what you hear, please hit that subscribe button. Let's get back to my interview with Volume 10. In this clip, he discusses working on the song Pistol Grip Pump in the studio with the Baka Boyz and how the vibe was just a little off between the two camps.
There was a few things. They gave me the beat without the bass line in it.
Okay.
And I wasn't feeling it. So they made me, the label made me write a song to it, basically.
Okay.
And they just highly suggested that I used it. But if you can imagine, I mean, the beat was all about the bass line, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was that fucking bass line. So without it, it just didn't make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once the bass line was put in it, I totally got it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think I pretty much wrote the song without the bass line in it. And, we got to the studio and we went to mix. Basically, they started mixing without me. You know, I like to put a lot of tracks, especially when I was young. When they said that it had 48 tracks, I tried to use the fucking 48 tracks for vocals. You know what I mean? Like, however many tracks they gave me, I was using them. You know what I mean? So I had a lot of extra shit in there, and I told them not to mix it until I got there, and they mixed all the stuff that I didn't want in there, and they basically told me to go fuck myself. Yeah. I said, hey, don't mix it. And they said, we already mixed it. I said, hey, pull it back up, because when I get there, I know it's going to be some stuff I need to fix. They told me they weren't going to do it. They weren't going to pull it up again. So I kind of kicked them out of the fucking studio and mixed it myself. And, the engineer acted like an asshole because he pulled their mix down. So it wasn't the same mix. And so, I was like, hey, whatever. So, yeah, I mixed the vocals how I wanted it. And, I think the proof is in the pudding, man. We've talked about it before, and I've said, you know what, bro? I was right. Because it was a historic song, dog. Yeah. And it would not have been that if it would have been left the way that they had it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it was just some young stuff. It was some misunderstanding. They called me back and they apologized, and they said, you know what, we shouldn't have mixed it. We apologize. We're gonna come back in and mix it, and they mixed it. But shit just wasn't never the same after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I can never get them to kind of fucking, forgive me for going off on them, and it was there's a lot of good music that could have happened with those guys, and I'm a little bit upset about it.
Pistol grip pump on my lap at all times. Pistol grip pump on my lap at all times. Where did this catchy hook come from? Fools be jacking other fools, but they don't be messing with mine. Something that I didn't realize until I did my prep for this interview is that Volume 10 actually sampled UGK. Underground Kings. Classic Texas hip-hop group. Bun B and Pimp C, man. R.I.P. to Pimp C, a true legend. Here's Volume 10 discussing how the hook for Pistol Grip Pump came to be.
We sampled them saying it. We sampled him saying it. Mm-hmm. And back then, we didn't have pitch control. So he sounded like a chipmunk once it was sped up to be on time with our track, because their track was real slow. Ours was faster, and he sounded like a chipmunk. No. You can up on my lap and all time, and I was like, dog, we can't use that. So I just did it, man, myself. And to be honest, man, I had no idea about the technical aspects and the business aspects of, using the hook. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, it's a blessing that I was able to use it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Because it definitely was Bum B's line. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I just as being young and being headstrong, there was just nothing else I could do. Okay. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't let the song go. You know what I'm saying? It was too. You could say it was commercial, but it really wasn't. But it was, it was too much of a classic. It sounded too much like a classic, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I appreciate Bum B for doing the line. It's one of the hardest lines on the planet. You know what I'm saying?
And it made one of the hardest songs on the planet.
It did. And that song that it was on, Pocket Full of Stones, is definitely one of my favorite songs ever, man. I mean, I Got a Pocket Full of Stones was played all in the name of my hood when I was growing up.
R.I.P. Pimp C,
man. Yeah, R.I.P. to Pimp C, man.
Let's get to some more juice. I know y'all like that juicy shit. Did Ice Cube steal Volume 10's style? Ice Cube had a certain type of flow, but many would say around 1993, 1994, his style switched up a little. Got a little more aggressive, for lack of better words. Volume 10 feels that is partly due to Ice Cube hearing his material and copying him. Is it true? There is a line in Volume 10's song Pistol Grip Pump that many say was a direct shot at Ice Cube. Around this time, Ice Cube formed a group called the Lynch Mob. One of their biggest hits and the name of their album was a song called Gorillas in the Mist. Great song. Well, in that song, Pistol Grip Pump, there is a line that says, I hang with the dog, mans, F a gorilla. F a gorilla? Wait, was this a direct shot at Ice Cube? Here is Volume 10 discussing this. Does that fuck a gorilla line, is that reference to Ice Cube?
Okay, so that I didn't expect you to say that.
I did my homework, man.
Listen, I'm just gonna say that people have been influenced by me. I will say that fact not being known across the board in the fan arenas, because I will tell you that the artists, they know, right? The fans not knowing that, and that fact equaling paper to me and Mike, and for the crew in general, because we wasn't the only niggas that was being studied. You know what I mean? The other homies in there is being studied too. I mean, all of us have put into that money pot and just not receiving very much from it. And it's just a shame to me, man. You know, I don't really want to call out names, bro, because that's not my fucking job. You know what I mean? I have a hard enough time standing up and saying this shit because a lot of people didn't want to hear that shit. You know, people don't want to hear, hey, your favorite rapper has been influenced by some niggas that ain't got no paper. You've seen black men invent shit all the time that they didn't get credit for paid for. Yeah. And, you know, this music thing is no damn different. They started doing our songs, doing what they call a cover.
Elvis used to go to little juke joints and steal music from soul people and jazz musicians back then and shit. And then turn that into...
The point is, where do we get off having that same attitude? You know what I mean? Where do we get off perpetrating the same crimes that was put on us?
Thank you so much for tuning in to the show. I do pride myself on keeping classic West Coast hip hop alive. So if you enjoyed what you hear and you want to hear more stuff about West Coast hip hop that you probably won't hear anywhere else, please hit that subscribe button. And before you bounce, I'm going to ask you for just the simplest thing, just to hit that like button for me. Just hit it. That's all. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit that like button, and it helps me out. It lets the algorithm know that I exist. I do truly appreciate you, and I want to remind everyone to follow me on Rumble. Subscribe to me on Rumble, I should say. That's RUMBLE. It's an app, and it's YouTube's direct competition. I'm free to say a little bit more stuff there. I mean, YouTube guidelines can be a little rough sometime. So if you want some really true uncensored Dusty Vision TV, go to Rumble, download the app, and subscribe to Dusty Vision TV. All one word. You can also follow me on Instagram at Dusty Vision Radio. I do appreciate you for doing that. I also have a pretty big Facebook group as well, Dusty Vision TV on Facebook. Lastly, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to my second channel right here on YouTube. I just passed the 3,000 mark and subscriber mark, I should say, and I'm really trying to get that bad boy up and running. It's Dusty Vision Radio on YouTube. Go to the search, type in Dusty Vision Radio, and hit that subscribe button. I do appreciate each and every one of you. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.